Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different in that this is going to be for the 1K subscriber Q&A, where I'm going to be answering your guys' questions that you gave me in the last video and in the community tab. So thank you all so much for submitting all of your comments and all your questions, and I'm going to try and get through as many as I can, and hope you guys enjoy. This video is going to be a little bit longer than all the others, but I hope that's not too big of a problem. It definitely covers a really large range of questions, so if you want to get to know me a little bit better, and maybe a bit of the channel a little bit more too, feel free to stick around. The characters that I'm drawing right now are Akita on the left. She's a tiefling, and yes, I'm going to keep calling them tieflings because we got to a point where we were calling them tieflings for so long now that if we began calling them tieflings, it would be weird, and literally nobody in my family would accept that. They would instantly reject that name, and it would be flushed down the toilet. So tiefling is how I'll be calling them from now until the rest of time, and I apologize for anyone who gets butthurt because of it. The character on the right's name is Ingrid, and she's an ASMR fighter who, along with Akita, was resurrected from the grave in order to come back and cleanse the world from tyranny. Both of these characters come from a really long-running campaign called the Hollow that I used to run, so they have a really deep connection to the lore of sort of my YouTube channel and my D&D career as a whole. So I'm drawing them today to sort of give thanks to them for starting up this whole ordeal and being the first step into me being a dungeon master for D&D 5th edition. But aside from that, we'll get to the actual drawing, so let's see what you guys commented, and I hope you enjoy the video. What's your favorite non-standard spell? So what it sounds like you're asking is what's my most favorite non-damaging spell? And in that case, if that's your question, it would definitely be Major Image. I mean, I just love all the different things that you can do with it, but aside from that, Major Image is my favorite spell, and whenever I play Wizard or Warlock or any spellcaster who can pick it up, I always go for it. Will I ever do a face reveal? So yes, I do have plans for a face reveal, but it's not for a while. It honestly depends on how fast the channel blows up, because I think it would be more than fair if I did that reveal around 100k subscribers. That's gonna be a while from now unless something crazy happens again with the YouTube algorithm, so we'll have to see, but definitely coming up, yeah. Who's been your most favorite character to play in D&D? So I've had a lot of characters which I've really connected to on like a spiritual level, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be the character that I made for one of my sister's longer running campaigns, and her name was Caitlin. She was a silent paladin, so she didn't really talk much. As she sort of mixed with the group and they became closer friends, she broke out of that bubble and became a much more open and emotional character. The big problem with that campaign, though, was that there were so many devils in the world, and since my character was a paladin who had ideals linking towards killing them all, she was constantly emotionally conflicted because a lot of the devils in the world were actually quite good and tame, and it was really bashing on her psyche to know that something that she's been dealing with this whole time is actually not as threatening as she once thought. So she went through a few sessions of like emotional torment until eventually realizing that this torment was hindering her allies, and once one of her party members, a girl named Andolin, was about to die to a chol, she snapped out of it and realized that she can't live in this mindset anymore. Her character design was super fun to play, and if I ever got a chance to roleplay her again, I definitely would have picked up the chance. Are you planning on working with any other D&D YouTubers? Yes, I would love to work with other D&D YouTubers. It's been a dream of mine to get to know some of the big fishes out in the D&D animation scene. And Puffin, Dingo, Joe Katz, they're all super huge to me, and a lot of them are the reason why I took up D&D animations in the first place. I'm definitely interested in collabs. Have you ever played Vampires of the Masquerade, and do you plan to make a video about it? I've only really heard about the game. I haven't played it yet. It definitely sounds cool, and I definitely want to give it a chance. Because I'm about to branch off my channel out to do some video game commentary and gameplay, I think I could definitely take a look at it. Depends on what you guys want. We have polls up on my Discord channel. If I ever bring that up to your guys' attention, feel free to vote for it if that's a game you want me to play. What was your very first time playing as a DM/GM like, and how did that campaign end? So the very first campaign that I ever played in D&D was actually the first one that I hosted as a DM, and it's also the first campaign that I ever played as in Dungeons & Dragons. As well, it was also the first campaign that any of our family had ever played in Dungeons & Dragons, so the stakes were high on me trying to figure out the rules, and I spent around a good day trying to memorize the starter set handbook as we were trying to play the Lost Mines of Phandalfur. The campaign ended around, let's say, 2 sessions in, as none of us really had the enthusiasm to go on, as we honestly had no idea what was going on. And if any of you know me well outside of YouTube, you know that I am crazy about rules. I want to make sure I'm playing things right, and I want to make sure that we're not messing anything up. Because of that, I was constantly fixing myself when I was getting things wrong. It wasn't great, and the campaign ended really early because of it, but it also inspired me to be the confident D&D 5th edition DM that I am now, because I'm crazy about the rules. So now I think I know a whole lot more. I'm still trying to learn about how different classes work, but aside from that, I'm doing much better now. But as for the very first campaign, that one did not go well in the slightest. What are your plans for the channel in the future? So, as you can see right now, I'm doing a speed paint, so I'm definitely trying to get more speed paint videos. Maybe I'm working on more gaming commentary, and it's not like the gaming commentary that you think, where like I play through an entire game, no cuts, no nothing. It's going to be really heavily squished down, and I'm thinking about adding an animated character off on the side, but I don't want to put too much time into those projects because I want the D&D animations to be the big thing on my channel, and I know you guys are really enthusiastic about the animations as well. If you know Dingo Doodles right now, she's doing slice of life stuff, animations, D&D animations, and speed paints. I'm going sort of down that track right now, except I'm really just trying to branch off just to see where YouTube takes me, and I hope you guys enjoy any of the content I decide to post in the future too. Very new to DM, maybe a warning on what to expect? Alright, so one of the big things that you want to expect is the rules. The very first time that you get into being a Dungeon Master, you don't want to go crazy about the rules like I did. You just want to go fluent, you want to just have fun, it doesn't really matter, and the longer you play, the more experience you'll get in the long run. So if you're spending more time reading the rulebook than you are actually playing the game, you know that you really need to switch your gears, because playing that game is going to be getting you a whole lot more experience than doing anything else. And yeah, you'll read the rulebook like a few times in between, maybe during short rests or long rests, or when there's a break in the game. You can just take a quick moment to look at the rulebook, but honestly, just ensure that you do not let the rules take over. Have you ever just murder hobo? Yes, I have murder hoboed a few times actually. One of the most prominent times I've ever done it was in my sister's campaign, the one with my Caitlin character, the knight. So we were a ragtag bunch of adventurers whose goal was to go out to the 4 islands and kill 4 giant dragons and restore peace to humanity or whatever. So my character, at the time, her name was Anduin, she did not care about any of the other civilians, humans, anything, on any of the other islands that weren't her own. So she would constantly go out and do whatever she wants in the name of her god, because she's chaotic good, and she wouldn't care nonetheless. So I would definitely put that under the murder hobo category, but if you think about it, she was doing it because she thought it was alright. She had no care for those people. I'm sure if you think about it, it could also go on the spectrum of chaotic evil, but alignment is a really tricky subject, and I'd best not get into it. If you had a character sheet of yourself, how would your attributes turn out? So if you're talking about attributes, I think you're talking about stats. I could give you that. I think my strength would be a 0. I'm like a typical human. My dexterity, I think, would probably be at least 14, maybe 15. And I would probably also have proficiency in sleight of hand, because I am constantly doing some pretty crazy stuff with my fingers, like going out at like the speed of light to catch something that's about to fall off a table or a chair, like, I don't know, just suddenly I have this third sense to jump out and grab something. I think that's also because I would probably give myself at least a 14 as well in wisdom. My intelligence would probably be a -1. I'm not that smart. I'm not a big fan of school, thank you very much, but you guys who are still in school, do well, it's important. And my charisma would probably be a -1 because I am very bad at talking with people. I'm trying to get used to public speaking, so I think that will raise up in the future, but for right now, what stats am I missing? Strength, dex, constitution, 0. I'm not hardy. And yeah, I think that's it. I messed myself up, I'm not sure. If I missed one, just assume it's a 0. What's the weirdest D&D story of yours? Actually, my weirdest D&D stories, yeah. I'm actually doing the next animated video on them, so you're gonna get to see, and it's definitely weird, it's hilarious, and my family told me that it would be a good idea to animate, and I agreed, so I'm going at it. It'll be coming out next maybe 2 weeks, so you can take a look then. How did you get here? Alright, so it may be a bit astonishing to some of you, but I actually came from the womb at a really young age, and I grew up to be what's it called? A human? And eventually I was given a tablet and told to use it, so I did, and then I posted animations about anime, and then I posted D&D, and now I'm here. Have you ever played Call of Cthulhu? And would you ever consider making a video about it? So I haven't played Call of Cthulhu. I haven't really done anything now that I think about it. I do not branch out enough, honestly. But if I did, I would definitely make a video about it, so expect that if I ever do. Best/funniest character death. So this may constitute as a character death, but we were playing a game where our characters were competing against one another in a series of little mini tournaments, like carnival games. And at one point, we were supposed to throw up a bunch of basketballs, throw a bunch of basketballs into a hoop, and they'd hit like a little pressure plate at the bottom underneath the hoop, and would trigger a little point system to give us a point. So we were all next to each other throwing basketballs. However, I had the brilliant idea to tie a rope around a basketball, throw it in, make the shot, and then just keep pulling it up and down to constantly score like an endless supply of points. So one of our party members, who was to my left, was cheating and doing the same thing that I was doing, because that's not unfair. If you take my idea, you're technically cheating. So my character got a dagger out and then shanked her basketball so that the rope wouldn't tie properly around it and she couldn't throw it properly. And she proceeded to, because she's a cleric, inflict wounds to me and deal 26 damage, and I was level 3. So as my little warlock flimsy body fell to the ground, the DM took pity on me and said no violence, so I didn't automatically die that day. But if the DM didn't give me pity that day, my character would have sure been dead, and that would have been the most hilarious character death by far. 2 questions. What's your favorite D&D race and why? And then, far more importantly, pineapple on pizza? Alright, so for the first one, my favorite D&D race, I would have to say, is a human, because I love min-maxing, and technically humans get the most points into their ability scores than any other race in D&D. So human is my favorite by far, and variant human I'm not too keen on because you lose a bunch of ability score increases. It's not great for me. Yeah, sure, the feats are fine, but when it comes down to just base points, I love to try and spec my character with the highest average stats possible, just so that they don't have any weaknesses and they can stay an overall unit in the field. For the second question, pineapple on pizza. Yes, pineapple on pizza is the best thing to ever happen to pizza, and coupled with olives, it makes pizza perfect. It's not a fact in the slightest. You are entitled to your own decision, but pineapple on pizza is a must-have. What is your favorite D&D spell? So, I sort of covered this already. I really like minor image? I think it's minor image, yeah. Minor illusion. There we go, minor illusion. But the spell that I like the most, as you can tell, is major image, because I think that's how you say it. Major image is by far my favorite spell. I love animating things, as you can tell, and being able to animate in Dungeons & Dragons basically just expresses that creative nature on like a whole nother level. So that's my favorite spell. How long have you been playing D&D, and do you plan to have any other RPG shorts in the future? I definitely do. On Discord, I mentioned that I might be playing a game called Baldur's Gate 2, which a lot of you older players out there should know as Wizards of the Coast's best called multiplayer Dungeons & Dragons game. To my knowledge, at least, it's one of the best. So yeah, I might be playing that in the future. I'm not sure if Minecraft counts as an RPG, but I'll be playing that real soon. And Enter the Gungeon, I would say, is a role-playing game, so I may be playing that as well. Honestly, it all depends on how the channel fluctuates, so we'll definitely see. When playing D&D, what is the silliest character you've ever made and played? So as you all heard, I said silly, and that's because I was born with a bar of soap in my mouth. You won't expect me to say any bad language or anything in this channel, so just pointing that out now. But as for the question, the silliest character probably going to be, I'd say, a blind cleric. It had its potential. The character's ideas were definitely there, but being blind does not help in combat, and you will not imagine how much extra damage you take every time an enemy goes for you just because you're blind and they have advantage. So I'd say my blind cleric was probably one of the worst, probably one of the most hilarious characters I ever made in D&D. Top 3 most stolen characters you have seen. Alright, this is very easy because my family is very keen on making stolen characters. So, number 1, probably Mega Man. Funny enough, except they named them Giga Guy instead. We got Tanya Degurachoff from the anime Tanya the Evil. And number 3 would probably be, Link from The Legend of Zelda. Yep. So, Nintendo characters and anime. Yep, that's our stick. Do you like anime, and if so, what are your favorite anime? I'm super big on the isekai genre. I've been taking a small break of it because it's a bit oversaturated at the moment, but I'm really a fan of ReZero, Konosuba, as you can tell from the video I made about him. I liked One Punch Man, but I only really liked One Punch Man after the final episode of Season 1. Haven't watched Season 2 yet. And Nichijou. I know that might be a bit controversial, but I really like comedy anime, and Nichijou hits that right on the nail. So those are my top 3. I like a lot more anime, but I wouldn't really recommend them nearly as much as those 3. Oh, and Season 1 of My Hero Academia. That was really good too. Who was your favorite player in the Spire Academy? My favorite... Well, they were all pretty good. I mean... Mishamu had a really raspy voice. Her character was unique, but I was a little turned off because of it. Tibbs was like a tsundere in anime culture. She wasn't really prominent in the adventure, so to say. She was merely more like along for the ride, and she was really quick to throw her teammates under the bus. Signet was interesting. She started the campaign as like a 6-year-old kid, but since they were in a high school, actually a university, it didn't really mesh well, so the characters were constantly bantering about it, and Thomas was... I'd say Thomas was the best, because he was constantly making jokes along the way, and just... the player's personality, one of my sisters who was playing as Thomas, really likes to put comedic spins even when I'm sure they themselves don't even realize how hilarious they're being, so Thomas Toron definitely. How much do you appreciate when the YouTube algorithm does its thing right? So, I'd say that D&D animations, for one thing, are definitely an unsaturated media at the moment, so I'm really getting into it because I want to grow an audience with my creations, and I know there's still a chance for smaller, less known creators to be seen in this community right now, so I'm definitely trying to step my foot in right now. For the YouTube algorithm, it does its thing right on occasion. You just have to know how to appease it, which is why I'm going to try and get this Q&A out soon. It should be out in like maybe a day, maybe the day I'm recording, who knows, and some gaming videos, and that's just to ensure that my content is constantly showing up in your guys' home pages. You don't forget about me, and the YouTube algorithm doesn't forget about me. But honestly, for right now, it's really giving me a shot, and I don't want to blow it, so you guys are definitely going to see a lot more from me coming up. What got you into art and animation? So, honestly, the very first time that I ever delved into the art medium, I would say, is traditional. So, I started off with books and pencils. I was drawing Super Smash Bros. Comics and art. It was not good in the slightest. I don't even know where those books are at the moment. Maybe I could scrap something up and drop it up right now. It might be on the screen if I did. But yeah, started off with Super Smash Brothers. It wasn't even Ultimate. I think we were still playing Brawl on the Wii. Not the greatest game. About a few years go by, maybe 3 now that I'm thinking about it. I start to branch much deeper into digital media, looking to see what I can do. Animation is a broad, open range. It's really, really intimidating. But, I mean, I'm just gonna start really anywhere, honestly, and see where it takes me. And it looks like my D&D channel, for the most part, is doing really good. And I think if I wanted to improve anything in particular, I would have more moving pictures, like actual animation, rather than like still images. But that makes it much harder to get content out, so we'll have to see. Do you watch Joe Katz boop guides to D&D, and do you think it is accurate or funny? I think it's super accurate. I mean, if you're judging it based off of my Konosuba and D&D video, I mean, we all have our faults. We all can't know the PHB like gods. So, and I'm sure Joe Kat's definitely doing his best when it comes to accuracy. For how hilarious it is, I played the videos at least 2 times just to absorb all the comedy, because I know that the speed of the jokes are coming out so fast that I might not even have time to process how funny they are, so I need to watch it a second time to laugh twice as hard. So I really like the series. He's taking a break at the moment, as I've heard, and I'm waiting for more content to come out. But yeah, Joe Kat's stuff is super inspirational, and I can't wait to see what he comes up with next. What is your favorite class, and what is your favorite anime? So my favorite class, I'd say Wizard, for a lot of the reasons described previously, and my favorite anime, I mean, there's so many. I don't want to pick just one, honestly. They all have their ups and downs. So, I'm gonna leave it at that. Are you a fan of the Dark Souls series? So, I really like Dark Souls. I like its theme. It's fantasy. I'm super into fantasy. The problem with it is I don't like games where if you're not perfect, you get punished. And I also don't like dying repetitively. I'm not that kind of guy who can just sit around and watch myself die and then go through a minute-long cutscene waiting for me to resurrect from the ground. So, I mean, Dark Souls, it has its ups and downs, but for me, the downs just way too hard. What is your favorite character, NPC, that you did/came across? So, a really old campaign, one of the first campaigns that I played aside from the Lost Mines of Phandelver, that was homebrew, was called The Hollow, and it had a bunch of gods and goddesses that ruled the world like kings and queens. One of them in particular was called Heaven, and she was the goddess of light. So the characters were constantly walking up to her. She had a really interesting personality. She was strangely obsessed with sweets, and would constantly ask the party to go and do things that she could obviously do herself, but is just too lazy to do. Actually, I got another comment that I sort of lost in between all of this, and they were actually saying if I had plans to have a campaign and make it like a long-running series of animations, and I do, and this is one of the characters that's going to show up in that video, because The Hollow was a campaign that I was running for around 2 years. So I don't want to spoil too much about her character, but definitely one of the better NPCs that I made. If you had to live as one of your D&D characters, who would you be? So I actually had a small gnome character called Trippet, who was actually 2 characters, a brother and a sister who were combined in a horrible experiment. They were also a wizard, and they were also the enchantment class. So I'm a really big fan of like manipulation in D&D. I like to get what I want, and the enchantment class, definitely like in real life against humanoid characters, is super overpowered. Like if in real life no one would really be able to resist against the effects. So if I wanted to become like a supervillain, that would be super useful. So I'm guessing like if I did become a D&D character, I guess I'd be a villain. Are you an art student, and how did you get into YouTube? So I'm not an art student. All of the practice that I've gotten for art has been by myself, off of YouTube, other creators. They've inspired me, they've helped me get better. As for how I got into YouTube, definitely the inspiration that came from the D&D animators at the time, and they're still going strong, so I'm trying to be at my top. I'm definitely not an art student, however, if YouTube's not the place where I can sort of get big and grow out, I'm probably going to have to go into college. I may study art. I'm thinking about studying game design. I'm not too sure just yet, but YouTube could definitely be the tipping point and maybe deciding where I go from here. What's your least favorite monster or enemy? Now, because I'm a wizard maniac, I am not a fan of any creature that has legendary resistances or magic resistance, so takes disadvantage on saves, because I like enchantment magic, and when my enchantment magic doesn't work, I get angry. So pretty much any creature with those types of traits, I immediately despise. I think one exception to this rule would probably be succubi. I'm not sure if they have magic resistance or not, but they get a pass regardless, for obvious reasons. What was the toughest fight in D&D? Alright, so I was talking a little bit about dragons, Caitlyn, Anduin, Tripid, that campaign. It was just Anduin, she was a fighter, and it was Nakar, one of our allies, it was a cleric. So me and him and his familiar, that was an imp, went up against a young silver dragon. It went miserably. We went downstairs, we pulled up Roll20, we were trying to take a look at how we would position, how we would maneuver, because we were level 3, and this dragon, it was going to cream us. So we were not prepared in the slightest. However, we tried to get as prepared as we could, and when we came back to the table, we saw the dragon token, because we were using Roll20 and we were casting on a television, and the dragon's token was almost 10 times larger than it should have been. So we had no idea, how are we supposed to flank this thing? It can move so fast. Is it gonna fly? How deadly is this creature? So, it turns out, my sister who was running the campaign, she just wanted a really large token, larger is better, as you know. So, its stats and power didn't change, but the larger the token, technically the stronger it gets, because it's harder to escape from. And we essentially died. We got really lucky, because we were playing with really strange critical rules. And the imp, he died in the fight, came back from the dead, evolved into some, mega imp, and then shanked the dragon so badly that he croaked it. So I wouldn't really call that a fight. A winning fight. We would have totally lost if that didn't happen. But yeah, technically one of the toughest fights that we ever had in D&D. It really forced us to think outside the box. What's your favorite thing about D&D? Honestly, it's the creativity. I know Pathfinder is super creative as well, but one thing that Pathfinder sort of lacks that D&D doesn't is the fact that you can just jump in, play, experience something. I know your character may not be as personalized as you like it to, but it doesn't matter how personalized your character is or how complicated fight scenes are. It just matters how much fun you're having at the table and how really strange things that players and DMs come up with on the fly can really transform a campaign to be hilarious and intuitive. So I love D&D for that aspect of it. Not really fight scenes. I mean, I love getting into really complicated, epic fight scenes, but unlike a lot of other really complicated RPG games that require you to read all these big books, Dungeons & Dragons, at least to my knowledge, is the type of game that you can learn in almost a day. You don't need to understand how the core mechanics work, you don't need to understand almost anything. Just grab your dice, get some pre-generated character online, and then roll the table. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So long as you have a semi-competent DM standing right behind you, it shouldn't be that big of a problem, and that's what makes D&D so great, the fact that you can just jump in whenever you want and play, and there's always such a big community around the game. Alright guys, that was the last comment, so thank you all for sticking around. I know this is a really long video, but I'm definitely not scared in the slightest to post things that are longer. I know the people out there who are really invested in the channel, and I really appreciate that from you guys. So thanks for sticking around with me this long. The art right here definitely took me, I think, around 4 hours, maybe 5 to do in real life. It was sort of like a casual sketch. I wasn't trying to do anything special or unique about it. Just light shading, light textures, stuff like that. So, thank you all for sticking around. The next video It's probably going to be the Minecraft one that you guys recommended. I have a really epic idea for it. It's going to be really short, straight, funny, and I hope you guys stick around for it. And the video after that, it should be the animation, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright, peace guys.